Good evening and welcome to this week in review. Tonight's stories include Burgeo wins Reach for the Top competition, LOL honor their members, November the 18th to the 24th is Addiction Awareness Week. These stories plus community events, the BBS Playbill, Off the Rack and more coming up after this.
It's a land with over 10,000 miles of coastline, thousands of inlets, coves, guts, and bays. A land that lives by the sea. No wonder our dogs have webbed feet. Imagine that.
On Monday, 4 students from Burgeo traveled to Ramia to take part in the Reach for the Top competition. This was an incentive of sharing our future. It was broadcast live from Ramia Broadcasting and taped for the residents of Burgeo to enjoy. Constable Ron Caldwell was the host and moderator. It was aired on Burgeo Broadcasting on Monday, November the 19th at 7:30 p.m. Burgeo won this contest. The next competition is planned for January. The Reach for the Top show will be shown again on Monday, November the 25th at 7:30 p.m.
How many sides does a heptagon?
7.
That is correct. What structure is 50 feet high, 26 feet wide, and 1,500 miles long? That is correct. And that's the last question. We'll just wait for the scores. Does it make a difference?
No. 370 and 540.
Okay, the final score is 370 for Ramia, 540 for Burgeo.
On Tuesday of this week, we were invited to the lodge where the LOL honored 4 of their members with awards. 22 members gathered to witness this special event. Master of the LOL Lodge, John Savory, made the presentations.
I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. And it gives me great pleasure this evening to have the opportunity to present to 4 of our brother Orangemen a plaque commemorating 60 years of dedicated service to this organization. It's a rare occasion to see 60 years in an organization, but to have the health and strength to be able to come here in person to receive these plaques is more incredible indeed. So without further ado, I'm going to start calling on these gentlemen to come forward to receive their plaques. And the first one is for Brother Philip Knight, Senior. And Brother Phil, congratulations. Thank you. And this milestone in your life. Thank you. The next one is for Brother Don Featheridge. Congratulations. Don? Next one is for Brother Gordon McDonald. Presented to Brother Hubert Spurgeon in recognition of 60 years of dedicated service to Unity LOL number 24. Congratulations, Brother Hubert. Now, I want just to stay here for a few minutes. Terry is going to get a picture of 4 of you for our Orangeman's magazine, The Sentinel, here this evening, a chance to walk around and shake your hand and congratulate you on this special occasion. So if the members would like to to start. Brother Albert can start, and you can all take a seat. I think these fine gentlemen deserve a big round of applause, don't you? And I'd like to thank Marie this evening for coming here to film this milestone in the life of these four gentlemen, and so that it can be shared with the community. So Marie, many thanks for your time.
November the 18th to the 24th was Addiction Awareness Week. Addiction counselor Kathy Cutler has been very busy this past week educating the public about the dangers of different types of addictions. A display was set up at the Calder Health Care Centre with a wide variety of pamphlets and booklets. At the St. John Central High School, another display was set up there for the students. Ms. Cutler also did a presentation for some of the students at the school about drugs and alcohol. These are some of the posters that were done for Addiction Awareness Week by the students. Earlier in the week, Ms. Cutler presented the residents of the Southwest Seniors Complex with the dangers of prescription drugs. Ms. Cutler stated that the presentation was well received. As part of Addiction Awareness Week, public service announcements were placed on the Community Channel 10. Ms. Cutler hopes that through a public awareness of addictions, our society will have a better understanding of the different types of addictions and will seek help if they need it. Stay tuned for more of This Week in Review coming up after this.
Icebergs drift south. Humpbacks migrate to the north. This is the place where their paths cross. They say you can't see the icebergs for whales. Imagine that.
Burgeo Broadcasting was invited to a meeting on Thursday, November the 22nd, to help develop and establish a community trauma response team. It is hoped that a core group of individuals will help develop the protocol for such a team in Burgeo. In a letter we received from the Addictions Mental Health Counselor, it explains the rationale for establishment of a team is to provide a coordinated response to deal with psychosocial needs of individuals, groups, and communities after a traumatic event occurs. The letter went on to say that a traumatic event could be defined as any situation which causes an individual or group of individuals to experience unusually strong emotional reactions, which has the potential to interfere with the ability to function, whether at this time or later. The goal of this team is to help alleviate the impact of the traumatic event on any affected component of the community. Approximately 8 people attended the meeting from different groups in town, including the RCMP, the BBS, principal of the elementary school and the high school, public health nurse, child protection, and a representative from the Calder Health Care Center. These individuals are now responsible for setting up protocol, functions, and duties of the response team. Congratulations to all who are involved in this important resource for our community. Now over to Mayor Ann with the council report.
Good evening. Burgeo Town Council report for Wednesday, November the 21st, 2001. Council held its regular meeting. Items up for discussion. Of course, number one was our water treatment, our new water treatment plant. In the last news release I gave you, I said that the tenders would close on November the 19th, and that's what I was told, and I feel certain the person who gave me that date told me in good faith. However, he had made a mistake, and consequently I also made a mistake. However, the tenders do close on November the 28th. That's the closing date, and after that they will be gone through, and a successful bidder will be named. The museum, the project is, as I said in the last news, has been approved, and the project is about to begin. Work is about to begin there, and the town is open to some suggestions. If someone has got some suggestions on what we should do as far as brightening up the museum and making it look like a museum, I've been told people who visited Burjo didn't even know that Burjo had a museum. It's sort of like our provincial park, our sandbanks. Sometimes it appears as if it's the best kept secret in town. So therefore we're going to try to spruce it up and get some signage up and one thing and the other, and see if we can't make our museum a more prominent place in our town. However, there's one little thing. There's only 2 people on the board of the museum. And you know, I feel certain there is people here in town who would like to serve on the museum. It's only they only need about 4 or 5 people, just a board. It comes under the umbrella of the tourism committee, but there's many things come under that umbrella. But what you need is a board that is specifically targets the museum and keeps a finger on things and sees what's going on there and promotes the museum. Now, I'm sure there's quite a few out there who can certainly come forward and volunteer to serve on that board. So I would ask you to give Stan Kosser a call if you're interested in serving on the board on the museum board, and I'm sure that someone will come forward. The fish plant, Councillor Reid reported to council that he had conversations with Minister Parsons, Minister Reid, the Minister of Fisheries and Aquaculture, and he'd also spoke to the Premier, Mr. Grimes. And the way that George expressed it to council, things with regard to the seal tannery, they seems to be working their way through the system. All angles are being dealt with. The politicians have had meetings with Mr. Barry, Carino. There's still ongoing meetings. There's no stumbling blocks in the way as yet. There's no what you call real obstacles. It appears positive, so there's no reason for us to be in the news media or doing anything. That's what we're told at this time, to just sit and wait, and we'll see the way that this thing unfolds. And right now it looks really positive, and that's all we can tell you at this time. Regarding the hydrant for flooding the rink, the town manager advised that the equipment have arrived in town, and it is possible on Tuesday. Not for sure, but it appears now as if everything goes in place that Tuesday that connection could be made. And the reason I announce this now is because it is quite possible that you're going to see on Burjo Broadcasting a notice that the water will be shut off for a certain period. This may be necessary in order to make the connection to the main line. So right now I think he's targeting Tuesday to connect that hydrant. Our drinking water, the boil order, that came in for a considerable amount of discussion, and rightfully so. Results of tests in the water was presented to council, and you know, it gets very confusing, very, very confusing. On October the 30th, that's when the samples taken on that date, that's what brought on the boil order. Now at that date, the coliform count, there was four samples taken. At Scott's Garage, there was 0 coliform count. At the town garage, there was 0 coliform count. At the fire hydrant out by residents of Daniel Green's, there was greater than 80 coliform count. and a sample taken in Messrs, the residence of Mr. William Grant, at a 4 coliform count. Chlorine was present in all of those samples, and apparently a boil order is not in place unless there's a count in excess of 10 or greater, 10 coliforms or greater. So therefore, given that there was greater than 80 at the fire hydrant at the wharf, the boil order advisory was issued by the government services. They came down on November the 6th and they did water samples again. And here's where the things really start to get strange. At Scott's Garage there was 0 coliform. Gillette's Hotel, 0 coliform. Town Garage, 0 coliform. Hydrant at the government wharf, greater than 80, exactly the same as it was the previous sampling, greater than 80. Dan Green's, the residence of Daniel Green's, 2 count. The residence of Bill Grant's, 1. So you know, what it's boiling down to is that we're on a boil order because the water from one sample, and that's from a fire hydrant. And the only people taking water from the fire hydrant is the Ramya Ferry. Now, you know, what is wrong here? Something is just not adding up for the very simple fact that, you know, if you was to get the distance in the main line from where the fire hydrant is taking off and where Mr. Green's line is taken off, you wouldn't have 100 feet separating it. So, you know, someone, if the samples come back, and there's got to be two successive samples taken that shows less than 10, coliform of less than 10 before they will lift the boil order. But we're expecting samples back within the next day or so. And you know, if things come back like this again, someone, the town is definitely going to have to get on to someone to come in here and explain why this is happening. Because, you know, we just can't understand it. And much more, I don't know if you was watching when they had the boil orders in St. John's. Some streets were on a boil order, some weren't. So, you know, it starts to get questionable why the old town of Burjo is on a boil order when there's only one sample coming from a fire hydrant, which has a coliform count exceeding the acceptable normal level. And so therefore we'll be waiting till the next count comes in, and council did an extensive discussion on this at our meeting. And you know, if something comes back in again, then someone from government services is going to have to come into Burjo and dedicate to finding out what they're going to do about this, because they're going to have to explain why this is happening, or else they're going to have to take us off that boil order. It's one thing or the other. Regarding the trailer court, the high tide where the flooding occurs, Atlantic Engineering did not get in since we had our last meeting. However, they are targeting Wednesday, November the 28th to come in and have a check and see what can be done with regard to the trailer court. Waste management, I don't know if you've ever been brought up to this, but the BDDB have made a proposal with regard to disposal of waste management for the area of Francois, Grey River, Ramya, Burjo, and Grand Bret. Now, there's an objective set by the provincial government that they're going to try to cut down the number of dump sites in the province. I think we got somewhere in the excess of 2,000 dump sites over the province of Newfoundland. And it's an aim of the provincial government to bring those dump sites down to 200. With that in mind, those communities which I mentioned have got together and they've submitted a brief to government by which waste in this general area, or certain parts of it, it can be taken to the one dump site. And as far as I know right now, it would come to Burjo. And it may create a few jobs. Anyway, it's something that's being looked at, and Councillor John Grant has been appointed to that committee. There will be one representative from each community, plus from the BDDB. So Councillor Grant will be representing Burgeo on that committee. Home heating oil and gasoline, that came in for some discussion. And you know, it's been the council's contention for some time what the reason was that there was 10 cents a litre difference in home heating oil in Burgeo as opposed to Rose Blanche, Portabass, Corner Brook, and so on. In fact, I believe it was in October or September that I brought this up to one of the suppliers of home heating oil, and it appears as if the problem was in Corner Brook or somewhere. Anyway, the thing is that Mr. Saunders of the price regulation has taken over the control of home heating oil, and as a result, the difference now in the price of home heating oil per litre in Burgeo and I'll say Corner Brook is 3 cents, and that's what we always thought it should have been anyway. So council will be watching what the price control board says that the price of gasoline and home heating oil should be in Burgeo, and we'll certainly make sure that the price which they set is the price that you will be paying. Or you can pay less, because remember that the price control board only sets the maximum price that someone can charge for something. There's nothing to stop anyone from selling fuel or gasoline for less than what the board sets the price. Another subject which came up, and for us anyway, but I don't know if any of you are aware, but we do have some little orphans running around town, or more particularly, I guess, around Shag Pond, and that is the ducks. As most of you are aware, that Gerald and Dr. Barter have moved to Stephenville, which of course left the ducks without a home. Now, Mr. Barter tried to get someone to take over the care of the ducks. He was unsuccessful. And you know, the ducks are an attraction. I'm sure that everyone would agree with that. And you know, if you had your grandchildren or your children, you've had to take them there to feed them and so on, and we're not talking no big deal. So, but Mr. Barter was left with the choice that he was going to have to get rid of the ducks. So therefore, council decided that for a year we would try it anyway, that we would try to adopt the ducks. It's not going to cost very much. You know, the city of St. John's probably spends thousands in duck feed. I don't suppose we're probably not talking much in excess of $100 a year to look out to those ducks. So the town of Burgeo, rather than lose this attraction, there's been a lot of things supposedly to promote tourism that costs a lot more than those ducks would cost. So anyway, the town of Burgeo is going to give it a shot, and you know, we've got no intentions of calling in an employee on Saturday or Sunday or holidays or things like that to feed the ducks. We certainly don't plan on investing a lot of money. However, we do feel it's a worthwhile project, and I must say every councillor supported this wholeheartedly. And so at this time, I would say that, you know, council will provide the food. It's possible we'll construct a duck house. And if there's someone, one or two, or I don't know, people who's retired and haven't got too much to do and wouldn't mind doing this, if you call the town office and volunteer, you know, that say, well, I wouldn't mind feeding the ducks or looking out to the ducks or something like that, well then I'm sure it would be greatly appreciated by us. So if you think that that's something you wouldn't mind doing, by all means, give the town office a call. The kiosk up at the end of the Burgeo Road, the committee met over the week, and I brought some of it to council. What we envision out there is a restroom area. I guess the best way to explain it would be sort of like a tourist information center. It would do the job of that, but it won't be called that. And so what we envision up there is a building and probably a couple students up there during the summer months. Would be a rest stop. Maybe you could pick up an hamburger or a hot dog there, just to raise a few funds for the upkeep and so on of the facility. And people could go in, and there would be a audio video center there where you could sit down and put on a tape and see what the coast from Francois or McCallum to Rose Blanche has to offer people if they come down the route to Burgeo. And of course we hope to share this, cost share this, and so on with the town of Ramia. And we will be sort of petitioning government now on a situation similar to the same kind of program that we did the town hall with last year, and we're going to do the museum this year with, and see if we can't get a proper facility put there at the kiosks, and then we could get the signage put on the Trans-Canada asking people to pull over, and it's just one more step in trying to get people down into Burgeo and leaving some money behind. Marine Atlantic, as an essential service, this came up for discussion, and it was the unanimous decision of our council that we support that Marine Atlantic should be declared essential. And you know, it's just that is our highway. There is nowhere in Canada that they would put up with someone going out and digging up the Trans-Canada Highway and separating one part of the country from the other part. This just wouldn't be allowed, and therefore we see the Port of Bass to Sydney service exactly the same as that. We certainly do believe that, you know, that the employees, there's got to be a mechanism put in place. I don't know if it's got to be binding arbitration or so on, whereby the wages and the working conditions and the benefits of the employees with Marine Atlantic are well taken care of. I don't know which way it can be done. I'm sure it's something that can be taken care of. Maybe they should tie them into the Coast Guard contract, and whenever the Coast Guard get raises and so on like that, and you know, it would be something that the Marine Atlantic would benefit from, and there would be no need of there ever being a strike at Marine Atlantic. However, that being said, Deputy Mayor Linehan was requested and accepted the responsibility to prepare a brief to be submitted to the Commission studying this thing of whether Marine Atlantic should be declared an essential service. So Deputy Mayor Linehan will be taking care of that file, and if anyone has got any suggestions or want to pass on any comments to Mr. Linehan, I'm sure he would be thankful to receive them. And that was it for the business, except that invoices in the amount of $22,277 was approved for payment. Good evening.
Stay with us for Off the Rack, the community events, and the BBS Playbill, all after this.
In a scene from prehistory, still fjords run deep, hemmed in by giant granite walls, carved by volcanoes, tectonic upheaval, 20 times as old as the Rockies. Our park. Imagine that.
Off the Rack. This week, as we scanned our tape rack, we came across a tape of an underwater video entitled Reef Balls. Let's take a look.
Good evening. Welcome to the community event segment of tonight's broadcast. I'm Rebecca Young. The winner of the St. John Central High TV Bingo was Ann Courtney. Congratulations, Ann. The Volunteer Services Department at the Calder Health Care Center are currently looking for volunteers. If you have an hour or two to spare once a week, or even every 2 weeks, please consider becoming a volunteer. We are looking for both male and female who are above the age of 18. A meeting will be held on Tuesday, November 27th at 2 p.m. in the conference room for anyone who may be interested. For more information, contact Jeanette Hant at 886-2898, extension 15. Tickets for the Lodge Boxing Night Dance will be sold from 2 to 4 p.m. on Sunday, December 2nd. Tickets for the New Year's Eve Ball will be sold on Sunday, December 9th from 2 to 4 p.m. Tickets for both these events cost $5 per person. The LOI are selling tickets on 2 for $100 oil or cash. Draw date is December 22nd. The Scotiabank staff still have tickets available on their Christmas Village. Draw date December 24th. The Sand and Sea are selling tickets on a TV. The Anglican Church Vestry have tickets on a set of Christmas pillows. Fire Department has tickets on an emergency kit. Draw date December 23rd. Guiding Movement still have tickets on their Christmas tree and decorations. The draw date is Tuesday, December 4th. If you would like to purchase any tickets on these items, please contact any member of the organizations. If your group or organization has an upcoming event planned, we would be happy to advertise it for you. Just call the BVS office by Wednesday of each week to have items included in this portion of our broadcast. That concludes the community events segment of tonight's broadcast. See you next week.
BBS Playbill. Join us on Monday for a rebroadcast of Reach for the Top, Burgeo versus Ramia. Tune in on Tuesday for a rebroadcast of Pansy's Garden. Try your luck on Wednesday by playing Burnett's TV Bingo. Tune in on Thursday when we have a rebroadcast of The Bandwagon. Join Pansy and the gang for 2 stories, a craft, and lots of fun on Saturday morning at 11 a.m. on Pansy's Garden. And I'll be here again next week with This Week in Review. Please stay tuned now for The Bandwagon. For This Week in Review, I'm Marie Rose. Good night and God bless.